We are now 1 week away from Georgia's Senate runoff election between Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and Republican challenger Herschel Walker. More than 400,000 people turned out to the polls over the weekend, including about 70,000 on Saturday. Yesterday alone, more than 300,000 Georgians cast their ballots, beating the state's previous single-day early vote turnout of 233,000. Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard live in Fort Valley, Georgia. Vaughn, what's the latest there?
Yeah, good morning, guys. You saw that there from Gabe Sterling yesterday. More than any early voting day in history here in the state of Georgia. That includes the 2020 general election, in the 2020 runoff, and even last month's general election. The largest number of early day voters in a single day was yesterday, more than 300,000 voters. Now, why does turnout matter? Well, here in Georgia for this runoff, it means everything for Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. In the case of the Republican, Herschel Walker, just take a look at the general election results there. There were more than 200,000 voters who voted for Brian Kemp, but then chose not to vote for Herschel Walker. Now, if he had just won 40,000 of those 200,000 who chose to vote for Brian Kemp and not him, he would have eclipsed Raphael Warnock. So what he needs to do here over the next week is get those Republican voters to turn out for him. On the flip side, if you are Raphael Warnock, you need to essentially replicate what you were able to do in the 2020 election, along with the likes of Jon Ossoff. Now, it's a misnomer to suggest that Democrats do not turn out, especially in special elections and runoffs, because 2020 disproved that. If you go back to that general election, Jon Ossoff actually received fewer votes than David Perdue. And then he gained a net advantage of more than 140,000 voters. Herschel Walker gained even more than that. And that was largely because in the runoff compared to the general election in 2020, guys, the Democratic voters turned out in a greater share than Republican voters. And even goes even more so for black voters here. So what Raphael Warnock needs to do is just that again here in 2022 to secure a 6-year term. I want to let you hear from both candidates. One who campaigned alongside the likes of Dave Matthews last night and will appear on Thursday with Barack Obama, and then Herschel Walker, who at this time has nothing on his calendar to join alongside Donald Trump. I want to let you hear from both of them, though, here in their closing messages.
The choice in this election, I think, couldn't be clearer.
Crystal.
I know that there are differences in this country, but I think it's safe to say that in my race, this is no longer about Republican and Democrat, right and left. This is right and wrong.
Being in a runoff is something I think I was built for. I think Raphael went out a little bit surprised after spending the amount of money that he spent. This election here is about, about controlling the Senate in the sense that, we're not going to let them take this Senate away. Right now, we can have everyone have the different committees. Now the committee could be even, whereas if the Republican lose that Senate seat, then the Democrat got total control.
Guys, what you heard from Raphael Warnock is trying to play that middle ground and win over some of those Brian Kemp conservatives, or at least convince them to not show up at the polls and vote for his Republican opponent, Herschel Walker. Willie?
And it sounds like it might be news to Herschel Walker that Democrats already have earned control of the Senate. This would be one more seat for them if Senator Warnock holds on to it. Let me ask you, Vaughn, about the state of Arizona, where you spent so much time, basically set up shop this year ahead of the midterm elections and on Election Day. A lawsuit now from the Secretary of State of Arizona to Cochise County, largely a Republican county that has failed to certify its results. And then last night, we saw a raucous, conspiracy-fueled hearing of the Maricopa County Board, where you had people getting up spewing just utter insanity at the members of the board there before they unanimously certified the results. What do you make of everything you've seen in the last couple of days?
Yet more evidence, Willie, that I could have just moved to Arizona full-time again and called it home. Look, this is a process here where you see Maricopa County, one of 15 counties, certified its election results yesterday. There was only one of the 15 counties that did not meet its statutory deadline yesterday, and that would be Cochise County. And why is this interesting? Well, Cochise County is actually a Republican county, and the two Republican Board of Supervisors largely declined to certify their election results out of protest for what happened in Maricopa County, suggesting that the long lines in some printer issues disenfranchised voters that could have swung the election in favor of Republicans in some statewide races like Kari Lake for governor. But as a consequence of this, again, this is under state law. The counties are required to certify their elections. But there's also a state statute that explicitly says if a county does not certify its election results, then the state of Arizona, the governor, secretary of state, and attorney general must certify the statewide results without that county being included. Well, that deadline is next week on November 8th. And what took place last night was Secretary of State, who's currently Katie Hobbs, she actually filed a lawsuit against the Republican Cochise County, making the case that the voters of that county should not be disenfranchised. And okay, this is wild here. We are going to follow this over the course of this next week, because in the scenario that the state of Arizona were to certify 14 of the 15 counties and exclude Cochise County, what would be the national implications of it? Look at U.S. House District, Arizona Congressional District 6. Juan Ciscomani is the Republican candidate who narrowly beat his Democratic opponent by just over 5,000 votes. But if you were to subtract Cochise County's votes from the equation, he'd lose by 13,000 votes to the Democrat, flipping the seat in Democratic control. So, again, do we expect that to happen? No. It's hard to fathom that more than 47,000 Arizona voters would be disenfranchised. But right now, that's exactly what the Republican Board of Supervisors in Cochise County is looking to do, unless they change course here over the course of this next week, guys.
You just cannot make that up, Vaughn, that they're going to fight to prevent their own votes, their own Republican votes, from counting here. NBC's Vaughn Hilliard covering a lot of ground for us this morning. Vaughn, thanks so much.